So we know after, I think we've all watched Urbanize at this point. Everybody in here has. So we watched Urbanize. The big idea behind cities is that the cities have the things for the people, right? They have goods and services, and that's what's going to make people come to a place. So we have a few important things that we need to write here, that we need to know is that cities range from a few thousand, like where I'm from, there's like 5,000-6,000 people in my town, up to like 20 million. Okay, so there's a wide range from a few thousand to, what was I going to say? 20 million or more, honestly. Okay, so lots of a big variety. Okay, we know, we talked about it the other day too. We talked about the sizing, how we have rural areas, we have urban areas, we have metropolitans and megalopolises, right? All of those have different population densities, and cities can range from small to big, right? And they also exist in an urban system. So it really just means that they're interdependent of each other, okay? I spelled it wrong. Interdependent. So they interact with each other, right? You have big cities, they are linked together by transportation routes. You just drew a bunch of mega cities, and those mega cities will interact with each other, right? Think about if we're a globalized world, right? Our big top 100 corporations, right, are going to have different offices in different cities, and most of the time those are going to be in mega cities, those are going to be in urban areas. So they're all interconnected. They're related, right? They talk to each other. Okay, so that's kind of a big idea, big picture here. Okay, so keep those things in mind as we talk about the 4 different topics today. Okay. So I'm going to start in top left corner. We're going to go gravity model. So someone read the definition of gravity to me last period. Does anyone know what gravity is? Can someone tell me what it is? Who's my science people in here? Yeah, the force that brings you to the earth, right? Tyler, what'd you say? Yeah, pull stuff down, okay. So the attraction, right? So if we're thinking about that in terms of cities, it's going to be the attraction that brings people to cities, okay? So why are people in cities? Well, it's because they have goods and services. They have things to do. They have jobs, right? There's stuff there that's attracting people, okay? So think of it like a magnet, all right? What is bringing people? What is attracting people to the city? Okay, that's essentially what the gravity model is. All right. So if you think like Dallas, right? Like we live close enough to Dallas to where we go into Dallas for specific things that might not be here in Frisco, right? What's an example? Why would we go to Dallas for something that's not here? Like jobs, maybe, yeah. What specifically? Huh? Yeah, airport. That's a really good example, right? So DFW is there. There's not an airport out here, so we're going to have to go into Dallas to fly somewhere, right? Think about entertainment. Hockey games, right? We could probably... Is there a minor league hockey team here? Is there a minor league, though, here in Frisco? I think there used to be. Well, Stars is like Major League, right? So we would go into Dallas, to see the Stars play. That's not in Frisco. We would go into Dallas to see Mavs or Cowboys, right?
The concerts I go to are in
Yeah. So what type of concerts? Who do you go see in Dallas at Jerry World or AAC?
Mostly like rappers or pop.
Okay, rappers. Like big time people, right? Like Biebs, Justin Timberlake. I went to Kenny Chesney last year.
You were there. We saw.
Yeah, what, Carly?
Oh, I just wanted to say that one time I had tickets to the Justin Bieber concert, but then he canceled it.
Ah, dang. Well, it wasn't in Frisco, was it?
Well,
Wasn't going to be in Frisco, was it?
no.
Right. So our bigger name people are going to be in Dallas more so, right? Like we have the Country Fest coming up, right? What's it called? Off the Railroad, whatever. Okay, whatever. So that's going to be here in Frisco. But again, it's not going to be like super, I mean, they're well known, right? But the most popular, the Biebs, the Timberlake, the whoever, the rappers, right? Like, see, they're going to be down in Dallas. You're going to have to go. That's going to be an attraction that's going to pull you into Dallas, okay? So let's write the definition, the model here. So we have places that are larger and closer together will have a greater interaction than places that are smaller and farther apart. Right, so the opposite is also true of this. So things that are small and far apart, people aren't going to go there. Pilot Point, Salina, you guys aren't going out there because that's rural, right? The only reason I'm going out there is because my family's there, but that's not going to attract people. What's going to attract people is the entertainment, the goods, the services, the jobs, the things to do, the fun stuff, the cool stuff. That's going to be in the big places. So there's going to be more interaction between Dallas and Fort Worth than there is with you guys going out to rural Salina, right? So, that is going to, like, the big places are going to bring people together. So we also need to write down that there's going to be more flow between the bigger cities, okay? So more flow from big city to big city. So this is the model that we're talking about. So if we're thinking like real world here, we talked about Texas the other day. Remember how we talked about our different sizing of settlements? We're going to draw Texas. So give me your best Texas. Oof, it's already bad. Oh, it's so bad.
At least you can erase it. I'm just copying your Texas, so mine's going to be yours.
Okay, good enough. That's all I got. Okay, so this is going to be real world here. Our real world examples here. Okay, so remember we talked about the different sizing of settlements, and we talked about our own little mini megalopolis the other day. Do you remember talking about that?
Yeah.
What were our cities that we talked about being in our megalopolis? San Antonio to Dallas, right? So we had Fort Worth, we had Dallas, we had Austin, we had San Antonio, we had Houston. That's Fort Worth. That's Dallas. That is Austin. That is San Antonio. That is Houston. Okay, so all of these places are kind of close together. Okay, you have the line that is from Fort Worth, from DFW to Austin to San Antonio. That's on I-35. Okay, those all connect together, and then you have I-45 that connects Dallas to Houston, and most of the population in Texas is going to live along this I-35, I-45 corridor. Okay, so most of the people in Texas are living around this area because of the gravity model, right? These are the bigger cities. There's attractions there. There's things to do. There's entertainment. There's jobs. It's easy to be linked together because of transportation, right? Because we have roads and infrastructure that link all of it. So the gravity model is pulling the people in Texas to these places, to these cities, okay? But even places out like in Lubbock or Abilene, you have Abilene out there in the middle of nowhere, even El Paso way out there in the middle of nowhere. Even those places are still going to be connected to the DFW area, to Austin, to San Antonio, because of the gravity model, right? Like there's a state basketball tournament, state soccer's coming up, all of the state games, really, like that's going to pull people in. Band competitions going to pull people in from out in the western part of Texas to the DFW area, because there's more things here because of gravity model, right? People would probably travel from out there to go to a concert, right? So because of the gravity model, people are, just think magnet, right? What's going to attract people. And that's kind of like our underlying theme here with cities. Okay, so that's where we start today. Okay, any questions about gravity model? All right, next thing we're going to talk about, I'm going bottom left here. Next thing we're going to do is primate cities. What? What was the sigh for?
We don't like primate cities.
Why? I think you're lying to me. Okay, so our primate cities are going to be mostly in LDCs. Mostly in LDCs. The definition here is that the largest city in a country, in a primate city country. Okay, so the largest city is more than twice as large as the next city. Like population. Okay, so we're talking population here. So the largest city is more than twice as large as the next biggest city. So if we're thinking of ways to help you remember this, I think of primates, right? Primates, monkeys. If we're thinking King Kong, right? If our largest city, think like largest city is going to be like King Kong, okay? So if you have a bunch of gorillas running around, King Kong is going to like get all the bananas, right? He's going to get all of the goods and services. So think of that as being your primate city, okay? Your largest city is going to get all the goods and services. They're going to have the jobs. They're going to have the infrastructure, the schools, the hospitals, the restaurants, the stores. Okay, your primate city is going to have all of that, kind of like how King Kong would take all the bananas from all the other gorillas. Okay, so I'm going to attempt to draw a gorilla. I got really made fun of last period, so we'll see if I can draw it better. If you want to attempt, you can, or I don't know. Yeah, draw some bananas. I'm going to draw some bananas too. Okay. There's my stomach. Don't hate.
Big leg.
Don't hate. Okay, let's do the other leg. Oh, that's too small.
I'm judging you.
Okay, judge me. I don't care. It's ugly. I know. Thank you. It's the other leg, Carly. There's my head.
Oh, I see it.
You see it?
Yeah.
Oh, I see it.
You see it? Thanks. I actually practiced this last night, so. I did, because I can't draw. There's the ear.
Why don't you ever just like download a picture?
Hey, that's not bad. That's better than my first one. I'm kind of proud of that. Okay, that's my King Kong. Thank you for the claps. This is my King Kong.
I'm drawing bananas.
I drew it.
You can try. You don't have to.
It's not hard. It's like a crescent moon, but then you have a stem.
Okay, those are exactly the best thing.
Well, you know what? I'm not exactly the best artist.
Give me all of the bananas, aka the goods and services. Okay? Man, I'm proud of my King Kong. So the important thing to keep in mind here with the primate is that the primate city is going to eat all of the services. Okay, they're going to have all of the services. So you need to write that down somehow. Primate is going to eat cheeseburger from the restaurant because they're going to have all the restaurants. Okay, so all of the services. So if this one place is going to absorb all of the infrastructure, the stores, everything that's happening there, that is also going to mean that they can't support all of that stuff at the smaller levels. Okay, so let's write that out too. They can't support services at all levels. So it means if we're thinking now about cities, okay, we have our one big primate city, okay? This city has most of that, like they get the funds for all of this stuff. So they get the funds to have schools, to have hospitals, to have infrastructure, to have stores, to have, what else am I missing? Restaurants, okay? The primate city is going to have all of that stuff. So that means the surrounding, the further out the city, like the smaller cities are, they're not going to have the same or equal funding to have like equal schools or equal hospitals. Okay, they're going to be kind of crappier, right? They're not going to get the equal amount of funding as that primate city is because most of the population is living in that primate city. Okay, so that's why that government might choose to put more of their resources, aka their money, into that primate city because that's where most of their people are. And so the downside of that is that the cities that are further away are going to kind of get the shaft, honestly, because they're not going to get as much money. So their hospitals might be fewer and far between. Like they're going to be really spread out. You might have to go a really long ways to get to school. There's probably not many universities out in the outer parts in those other towns, okay? Because most everything is going to be clustered in that primate city. Okay, does that make sense? What, Caitlin?
So would like the favelas in like a normal city be kind of like that if the favela was like an actual city?
Kind of, but with the favela, like The favela is going to still benefit from the city that it's in, right? Like you have slums, you have shanty towns, like everything that you saw from urbanized, but those places are still close enough to the actual city to where they could get those resources. I'm talking like Mexico. Mexico is a really good example of a primate city. Okay, Mexico City has most of the population, and then think like, okay, like I was in Cancun a few weeks ago for spring break, okay? So that has built itself up off of tourism, but everywhere from Mexico City in between all the way to Cancun out on the peninsula, all of those towns in between, because there's like lots of states in Mexico, right? All of those towns in between are not near as well off as it is in Mexico City, because that's where most of their money is going towards, right? Cancun has made itself well off because of tourism, right? But that's not particularly from the government, I guess. They've built it kind of themselves. You know what I mean? There's no universities out on the peninsula, okay? Whereas most everything is clustered around Mexico City because that's where most of the people are, and that's the primate city in Mexico. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, so let's add some real world examples. You can think Mexico, okay? But yeah, let's go ahead and do Mexico. I need to draw Mexico. Here's my Mexico. There's Mexico. Oof. It's ugly. I know, it's fine. So Mexico City has about 20, I think. Yeah, about 20 million people. And the next biggest city is Guadalajara. Is that how you spell it? Yeah. And they have 4 million people. Okay, so huge drop off. All right, most of the people are in Mexico City. That's the primate city. Okay, another example would be England. And I know we said most LDCs, right? England is not an LDC, but they are a unitary form of government, okay? And typically, more unitary forms of government, they're going to be very centralized. They're kind of smaller in geographic location, okay, or like size. So England is also a primate city country because London is their primate city, and they have 14 million people. And then the next largest city is Manchester with 2.6 million. Okay, so again, a huge drop off. Draw my England. Oof, I cannot draw. It was an attempt at England. It's really just a blob. What?
Mexico City is bigger than London?
Yes. Yes, remember on that video that we watched at the end of class the other day, the bar chart race? Mexico City is in the top 10 in the world. Yeah. Big city. Okay, and one more example would be India. India, where's my notes? Here we are. Mumbai has 18 million people. The next largest is Kolkata with 4.5. So again, big drop off, okay? India, ugh, not pretty. Oh well. Okay, so primate city, big place. That's where most of the people are. That's where all the resources are going. Okay, it's going to kind of hurt the other smaller cities in the area or in the country. Okay. All right, next topic that we're going to do is rank size rule. So kind of the opposite. I'm going top right up here. Here we go. Rank size rule. So rank size rule was kind of the weird definition. You probably didn't understand it at all when you were reading, because I definitely did not. It was kind of confusing. So we're going to go ahead and start out with the definition, because that part was the confusing part. Okay, so the nth, yes, the letter N, the nth largest city in a region will be 1/n the size of the largest city. Okay, so this is the rule here. Okay, so I know that sounds confusing, and it is. It's confusing, but it will make more sense whenever we when we put it into practice. Okay, so if we have country A, and if we are to graph the population of the cities, it's going to look like a downward slope. It's going to be pretty even, okay? But if we have a city and our largest city is 100,000 people, then the second largest city is going to be half of that largest city. So it would be 50,000 people. The third largest city in the country would be a third of the largest city. So it would be 33,333. Now, it's not exact, but it's going to be about, okay? It's going to be around there. So then the fourth largest city would be what? A fourth of the largest city, which is, yeah, 25,000. And so on and so forth, right? So the fifth, if you take a fifth of 100,000, what is that going to be? 20,000, right? Our fifth largest city would have 20,000 people, and so on and so forth, all the way down, right? Our 10th largest city would have 10,000 people in it, right? Okay, so it's just math. I suck at math. I can do this. It's pretty easy. Okay, you just plug it in. Don't let the definition scare you, the n, whatever, because that part is confusing. But just plug in whatever number you're trying to figure out, right? If they give you the 20th largest city and you don't know the population, but you know that it is a rank size rule, they'll give you the largest city, and you just got to figure out divided by 20, right? And then that's going to be the population of your city. Okay. So our real world example is going to be the U.S., okay? We are a rank size rule country. I'm going to draw my little U.S. here. Looks like a dinosaur. Okay, let's hate a little more, please. Thank you. So our U.S. stats here to give you... what's the word I'm looking for? Actuality, something to compare it, base it off of, okay? So what do you think our largest city is? New York, yep. So New York City has 8.6 million people. And this is like city proper, so only the urban area. It's not including the suburbs around it, okay? So just the city. NYC has 8.6 million people. Our second largest city is, take a guess? LA. 4.1 million. Okay, so about half. The third largest is Phoenix. Yeah, everybody's surprised by that one. Phoenix. They have about 2.6 million people. Fourth is Houston. and they have around 2 million. Okay, it's about a quarter of NYC. And the fifth is Philadelphia. I'm just going to say Philly. And they have 1.6 million people. Okay, so it's pretty steady. Okay, again, it's not going to be exact, but it's going to be about a fifth of Philly's going to be about a fifth of New York City. Okay, so it's pretty even. All right, most of the time, this is going to happen in MDCs. So unlike primate city countries, can't support all of the other cities. But with rank-sized rural cities, remember, these are our more developed countries. So they are pretty established. They have money. They can support other places. Okay, so they can support all the other cities as well. Okay, so think U.S., right? We have our larger cities, but Frisco isn't as big as Houston or Philly or Phoenix, but we are still adequately taken care of, right? Like, we have infrastructure, we have schools, we have goods and services and stores and restaurants and all that, right? Even out in Pilot Point, even our rural areas, there's still restaurants and infrastructure. Like, I'm not riding a horse and buggy to school. Like, that wasn't my life in high school. Like, I had a car, we could drive. There was high schools, there were a few restaurants, not as many as Frisco, but we still had things. Okay, so the government, the country can support everything for smaller places too. Okay, so opposite of primate cities, services can be supported. At all levels. Okay, so opposite of rank size rule, or primate cities, sorry. Rank size rule and primate cities are opposites. Okay? All right, that's it for rank size. Last one we're going to do is central place theory. So this guy, in 1933, this German guy, his name was Walter Kristaller. He came up with this theory. It's the central place theory. Okay, so the theory is this: that central places. That a central place meaning a store, a restaurant, a service. Okay, that's the central place that we're talking about. It is a location where people go to receive goods and services. Remember, think the tertiary level of economic activities. Think back to, what was that, unit 1, 2, right? So this part was the one with all the hexagons in the book last week in chapter 18. Okay, so if we are to draw a hexagon. Oh boy. Okay, there's my hexagon. Okay, the dot in the middle, that is going to be our central place. Okay, CP. I'll zoom in on it for you. Okay, that's our central place. your restaurant, your store, let's go with Target. Target's going to be our example. Okay, so Target is in the middle. That is our dot. That is our central place. Okay, so the line that you drew for your hexagon, that's going to be the range. The range is the edge. So that is as far as someone is willing to drive to get to Target. Okay, which on this side of town is probably pretty far, because if you think about it, like there's not a Target in Prosper or Salina. There's not a Target towards my house in Pilot Point. So people are probably willing to drive a ways to get to a Target. Okay. Whenever I was in high school, there wasn't like a major grocery store for 30 minutes. Like we had to drive at least 30 minutes to get to a Walmart. We either had to go to Denton or we had to come to Frisco to get to a Walmart to get groceries. Okay, so the range then for Walmart during that time was like 30 minutes. So the range is how far someone's willing to drive to get there. Okay, the area in between is just the market area. So really that just means that within that area there's not going to be another Target, okay, because that's our example that we're going with here. There's not going to be another Target within our hexagon, okay? The next most important thing that we need to do is draw our people, okay? All the people within our market area, that's the threshold. Right, so you have to have people in your market area to be successful. For Target to make money, there has to be people in that in that market area for Target to make money, right? We have to go to Target to let Target like make a profit off of us, right? Like we have to go spend money there. People have to be willing to go spend money there, okay? Now this can be this hexagon is just for Target alone. Okay, and these hexagons are for everything. Okay, so like in a small town, like there were gas stations in Pilot Point. Okay, so the gas station hexagons are probably going to be smaller because you have to have gas, right, to drive a car. So the hexagons hexagons matching up together for gas stations in the middle, the central place being a gas station, those are going to be closer together, right? Whereas Target, those hexagons are going to be further apart because Target can support more people. People are willing to drive a little bit further to get to a Target or a Walmart or a mall, okay? But whenever you have Targets like close together, like how many Targets are there here, Frisco? There's at least 2, right? So whenever that happens, let me zoom back out here. Whenever that happens, let's draw some hexagons closer together. Oh, it's so bad. I can't even do it. So that's what it looks like when they're closer together, right? So maybe this Target is the one by Wakeland over here. But then the next little hexagon over here would be the Target next to the mall, right? So Target looked at the growth of Frisco. The first Target that was here was the one over by the mall, right? And people were willingly driving over to the mall to get to that Target, and the market area was bigger. Well, then when the population of Frisco started growing, Target looked at how many people there were and decided that maybe it was time to put a Target over here on the north and on the west side, and that a Target could be supported on this side of town because now there were enough people to make this Target right here next to school successful, right? And it has been successful because it's still open, right? And so now we go to this Target that's right here next to our house instead of fighting the traffic and driving all the way to the mall, right? So the threshold changed that market area, and now there's multiple hexagons together, okay? And our central place right now is just looking at targets, okay? So all of these hexagons in our example right now is about Target. But when you start adding like gas stations or car repair places, or dress alteration, whatever it is that you're talking about, or like looking at your central place, those are going to like overlap, like hexagon on hexagon on hexagon, kind of like that image showed last week in the book, okay? But when we're looking at it really quick, we need to draw 4 more hexagons. We're almost done. Okay, so you have to look at the different sizing of settlements. So this is going to be a little bit of a repeat. If we're looking at our sizing of settlements, draw a hexagon, a small one. Oh my gosh, that's the worst. Oh well. So it's called a hamlet. I think it talks about it in your book. I think that's what you guys were looking at today for your warm-up too, right? Were you looking at hamlet, village? No? Okay, then that's coming. We'll do that one soon. So the smaller, we don't call them hamlets anymore, but these are like our rural areas. Okay? Like what we talked about the other day, what would an example of that be? What would be in a rural area? Yeah, Salina, right, or Pilot Point, right? So that would be our smallest area. So people in the hamlets are willing to drive further to get to places, right? Like my family was willing to drive further to get to Frisco to get to a grocery store. Okay, that's just kind of like what happens. There was one high school. I had 2 stoplights in my town. Like not a whole bunch. Okay, so that's a hamlet. The next biggest, draw a little bit bigger dot and draw a little bit bigger. Ugh, it's so bad. I can't draw a hexagon. The next biggest one would be a village. Okay, this would be like a Prosper. Or a suburb. I guess I shouldn't have wrote Prosper in there. This is more of like a suburb, okay? With Prosper being our example. Okay, so it's a little bit bigger. Will probably have a little bit more goods and services, right? The Prosper is building their second high school. There's a Kroger out there now. Okay, so things are growing, okay? And then our next largest one would be like a Frisco. Okay, and this is called a town. So again, kind of like just a little bit bigger of a suburb, I guess. We're moving towards a city because that is our last one. Our biggest sizing of a settlement is a city, which would be Dallas, right? Dallas, this would be Frisco. So we would go all the way in to Dallas for all the things that we had talked about earlier, for the entertainment, right? They have the airports. Everything that we could ever need would be in the cities. Those people have everything. So the hexagons for all of their central places are going to be a lot smaller and closer together because there's a lot of people and because there's a lot of stuff there, okay? So where all of this comes down to where we can put things to make the most profit off of people, right? How far are people willing to drive? And where can we put our thing to make the most money off of it, okay? Okay, let's stop there. What time is it? Oh, great, perfect time.